Hey! Alright everybody, how's it going? Now then, if you've got a Vauxhall Astra J or a Meriva B and the code 95 comes up, pops up on your dashboard and keeps flashing at you, then that is usually or always an airbag fault. It's telling you you've got an airbag fault. And if you go online on YouTube, there's a couple of videos and it points you towards going under the seat for the connectors for the airbags in the seat, and it says wiggle around with them and that should solve your problem. But that's not always the case. Now, this particular problem with the airbags is a little bit more tricky, a little bit more involved, and a little bit more expensive. Which is not very nice, is it, when you add them three things up? So I'm going to show you now how me and my brother put our heads together and said ouch, and fixed this problem with the airbag. And it's nothing to do with the seat connectors. So let's get a little bit more involved and have a look. You've got to take some things apart as well. You've got to get to the airbag module. So I'm going to show you now briefly what parts you need to take apart to get to the airbag module. Then I'll sort of cut into the airbag module and show you what that's about, and try and give you some details and help anybody who's got this code 95 and you can't fix it with just wiggling around with the seat connectors or any other connectors. Okay? Right, the airbag module lives down by there somewhere, under this plastic piece here. I'll try and go a bit closer down there. Under this plastic piece here, towards the front of it, that is where the airbag module is situated. And the airbag module looks like this. This is the one that was broken. And if you look inside there, you can see it's got very thin pins. So when you're undoing this and doing it back up, you've got to be very careful not to bend any of them pins, right? Okay, so there's the pins in there, two sides there. This particular part number here, 13577275. If you do buy a second-hand one, this number has got to match with your number, okay? If it doesn't, it's no good. But I'll explain that a little bit later, so don't go rushing out buying a second-hand one just yet, okay? Right, so you've got to take all this apart. Now, under here, where my finger is pointing, is a little flapper-doodly thing, and you've got to pull that off first. That's the first thing you take off, is this. I'll try and put the camera down there. I don't know if you can see it down there. Right, down here somewhere, there's a panel there. I'll take it off in a minute and show you. But under there, that is where the OBS port as well, OBS 2 port is as well. And that can play a part in sort of how to find out if the airbag is wrong or not. So let me just get up the car and I'll show you a bit more now. Right, okay, like I said, under there, you've got to take this panel off first, okay? Little plastic panel under there. Then this side cover here and this side cover there, they come off. They pull off, they're all clipped in. There's no screws. You pull them off, blah, 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 blah. And that comes off and slides out. Then after that, you've got to take this out, that out. It all depends, if your car might not have these. It might not even have this bar. Then this bar, this chrome bar here, it's got 2 bolts at the front, and I think it's 2 at the back somewhere. The facelift models have got a slightly different design, and the older models, the bar goes a bit further back. But there's basically taking plastic things off, finding the bolts and screws. So you've got to take all that off. Then down there is another plastic tray, and you've got to take that off. Once you've taken all that off, you get to that over there, and you'll see that. Now I'll show you that in a minute. Right, okay then, you can see code 95 is on the dashboard. That keeps coming up. And what I've done, I've taken all the plastics off around where the gear stick is, and just down below the gear stick is the offending article, the actual airbag module. Now, you can see that there's got 1 bolt on the back of the airbag module, and there is another 2 at the front of the airbag module, and 2 of them bolts act as an earth as well. You'll see that there's this, like an earthing bar going through 2 of the mounting holes. Then to the right of that is the 2 plugs that go into the airbag module, and they have 2 little red switches that you've got to press across, and then you can depress the grey bar, and the grey bars move forward, and as they move forward, they sort of pull the plugs out. Alright, so you might be thinking, how did you discover that it was the actual airbag module that was faulty? Well, what we did was we put a cheap diagnostic equipment into the old port down below. I'll show you now a minute. Hang about, okay. So down here, I've taken off that flap, like I said before, and down there is the port for diagnostics, and use the cheap Autolink, what was that, AL619, and you can see on my car it says system passed, no faults codes detected, and that is actually on the, let me go back, that was the, it says by the inflatable restraint sensing and diagnostic module. Okay, so that's just basic thing. Now on my brother's car, when you plugged that in, it said it couldn't link up with the module. So I had one of them cheap you can use on the laptop, I can't remember what it's called now, Voxcom, one of the cheap Chinese copies. I tried that and that would not link with the module either. So we started to suspect that the module was faulty. So what we did then was, just to make sure that there wasn't the wiring going to the airbag module, my brother bought a second-hand unit with the same top part number for £15 off eBay. They're quite cheap on eBay, for £15, and we plugged that in just to make sure. Now the second-hand unit will not work. If you look on eBay for a second-hand airbag module, you can't just plug it in and think it'll work. That's not going to happen, okay? But for testing purposes, just to make sure the wiring was okay, we bought a second-hand unit, plugged it in, and the diagnostic equipment could read the airbag unit and the airbag module. So we knew then that it was definitely the airbag module at fault. So what my brother did then was he rang around a few places, and he found this place in Swansea which was about 50 or 60 miles away, and he drove there. The guy said he could try and do something with it, but when he got there, his equipment wasn't good enough to sort of get into the broken unit, and he couldn't transfer the data onto the second-hand unit. So then the next port of call was to phone a place called Autotronics, and I'll put the web page up on the screen now. And Autotronics, they said send the original unit in and we'll try and fix it. So he sent the original unit in, and they said they'd fixed it, and they sent it back. When he plugged it in, it still had the same fault. It worked for about 30 seconds, and then it went back to the same fault. So phoned them up again, and explained that the second-hand unit always works, but the original one doesn't connect, if you know what I mean. So they said send the second-hand unit and the original unit, and they will put the data off the original one onto the second-hand one. And that's exactly what they did, and they sent it back, and now it's working. So how to cure the problem, I had to buy a second-hand one and send off the original one together, and they put the data on it in this particular website. Now, the reason why we went that way is because Vauxhall wanted £600 just for the module. So, and I don't know what they would have charged altogether for programming and the module, maybe £700, £800, which is a bit expensive. I can't exactly remember what my brother paid for this service in Autotronics, but I'll put it across the screen right now. I know it was a lot more. I know it was a lot less than Vauxhall. So this is the way that he cured his problem with the airbag unit. It was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, because when you don't know who to ring, who to call, who's got the right equipment, it can be a bit of a nightmare. But in the end, it was solved. So I hope this video helps somebody who's got this problem, because these Merivas and Astra Js, Meriva Bs and Astra Js, they're getting a bit old now, and these problems do arise. So like I said, I hope this video helps somebody. If it did help you, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ho-hoy!